Excuse me.
You're gonna get a lot of attention.
Ready? Okay. Good evening, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for March 15th, 2018. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
After opening comments?
Yeah. Okay, opening comments. Mr. Taylor?
Extremely proud of the way the town handled themselves for the last three storms. Very, very difficult. The fact we had 8 or 9 straight high tides that were high tides was tough. Few procedures I'm going to be working on to maybe work with the town administrator for the next potential storm. But very proud of the way the town handled themselves. Everyone did real well. Thank you.
Richie?
Yeah, I can't thank the Public Works, Fire Department, Police Department, working around the clock for back-to-back storms. The troops are tired, and they performed very, very well. If the plowing alone in the town of Nahant versus the other communities around us is unbelievable. They did a fantastic job. And the fire department, as well as the police department, they're out and about, and their time to the average call when someone called 911 was right on the money. They were under 2 minutes. It was unbelievable. I was out there during the storm, and I saw them perform, and I tell you, it was just proud. And, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move after this week, and we start collecting our thoughts with the new town manager in effect. We need to do something for them. And talking with them, they really don't want a party per se, but they would like something else, and I'll bring that up with the new, the acting town manager, and hopefully, of course, it involves money. I know we're short on it, but we'll see what we can do for these guys. They really, they went above and beyond. Of course, we get another storm Tuesday night. I just hope it's not any more high tides. At least the astronomical tides are gone away. It's been a very busy month, but that's my report. I tell you, they, Bobby Dwyer and the chief, setting up the Red Cross up at Johnson School was excellent. And the Public Works just performed. The number of people we have down the Public Works is just unbelievable. The job and the performance they, you know, with the 17 miles, 18 miles of roadway, they kept them clean, and they, and I tell you, you go to the surrounding communities, it's just, it's not happening, but Nahant did an outstanding job. I'm very proud. So what I'd like to do is just I'll hold off on my motion until we have time to meet with the board and the new town manager, so we can come up with something appropriate down the road for our employees. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, and I will, I'd also like to thank, I'd like to particularly thank some of the residents down on Fox Hill Road, because I was down there setting up pumps with Timmy and the boys. Mike Shavinsky was one that actually slept in his truck to make sure that the pumps stayed running. Just all the residents down there, Marsha Duvall and Frankie McCarthy and all those guys, they all came out, Chris Howard, and we were able to get it pumped down. The DPW did a phenomenal job, as usual. We were ready for it, and you know, considering we got beat up pretty good, they took care of it. They did a great job. Police did, fire did. So I'm very happy with with the outcome. And we were able to pump stuff down, you know, pump the golf course down, and now it's just a matter of making repairs. So
Cleaning up, too.
that's it. And also, I wanted to say, I wanted to express my condolences to the Tomajian families. Stevie passed away a couple days ago, Steve Tomajian, and he was a great guy. He was very involved with the Johnson School, him and his wife Patty. They're longtime Nahant residents, and we're going to miss him. He was just a great guy, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may we appoint our new town?
Yes, let's do the minutes
Everything?
first. We'll do.
Well, I have something to say during the minutes that,
Oh, okay, all right, okay. All right, so I would entertain a motion that we appoint our new town administrator, Jerry Perry. Jerry was a Nahant police officer. He grew up in Nahant, right on Ward Road. He comes from the Department of Revenue, where he was the Director of Bureau of Accounts, Division of Local Services, and then he was the Deputy Commissioner of Local Services. So he has quite a bit of knowledge about the budget and what we're going through right now. As a matter of fact, thank God he came in and gave us some advice on this one thing that we're going to be voting on in a couple of minutes. So I'd
so
entertain
moved,
that
Mr.
motion.
Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to support, to appoint Jerry Perry as the interim town administrator. I so move that, Mr. Chairman.
T second, had moved it, so Teal, you want to second it?
well, he can second my motion.
Okay. Rich, you'll second it. T,
Discussion.
discussion.
Well, I'm supposed to make the motion here, it says here.
All right, that's okay.
The Bureau of Accounts, I'm reading right from Mr. Perry's resume. The Bureau of Accounts oversees financial management of Massachusetts' 351 cities and towns. He was in charge of setting the tax rate, compliance with Proposition 2.5, municipal accounting practices, basically anything to do with any cities and towns. And Nahant was one of them. So the people that ran Nahant reported to Mr. Perry. So I feel we're very fortunate to have him as interim town manager.
Richie?
Yeah, Jerry, I just, I've known you my whole life, a Fox Hill kid, so, you've done extremely well in your employment history. You're a great asset to Nahant when you were on the department, of police department. And now we've asked you to come and help us in your retirement, and you've agreed to do so. And I appreciate very much, especially your expertise in the financial areas. And especially when we're going through all this FEMA and all the information that we have to, all the memos and time sheets, everything has to be thrown in, since the governor declared and the Board of Selectmen declared a state of emergency. And so you're just a welcome, a very, very welcome asset to the town, and I appreciate very much you stepping to the plate. Thank you.
Yeah, and so am I. And as a matter of fact, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. So Jerry is the acting town administrator for the town of Nahant. And I'm glad that we did it now, because now we can really put him to work. Jerry?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. To all three of you, thank you very much. I will tell you, it's quite frankly an honor and a privilege to do this. I have a real soft spot in my heart for the town of Nahant. As you all know, I grew up here. And by the way, it wasn't Ward Road, it was Castle Way. I grew up
Castaway? Okay.
on the corner on Ward Road. But I did grow up there. I've known all three of you for over 4 decades, quite frankly. And the fact that you asked me to do this, it is an honor and a privilege. I'm a big believer in public service. And to do this, to come back to Nahant, I'll tell you the truth, one of the main reasons I am doing this is this community gave me an opportunity to begin in my professional career when I was on the police department, and hired a pretty young kid and even promoted me to be a sergeant as a pretty young guy. And I'm always grateful to the Board of Selectmen at that time, who happened to be Jimmy Hoska, Bob Steves, and Charlie Kelly at that time. Then Richie came shortly thereafter when I was still in the police department, but they gave me the opportunity to broaden my career and to take it off, and I had a pretty decent run. And so for me to come back to Nahant and to try to help you folks out in the future is something I'm really looking forward to. I will tell you that one of my basic goals is to do as much as I can to provide stability during this transition phase, to work with you guys. I can tell you I've had some preliminary meetings with quite a bit of the staff, and you're very fortunate. There's a lot of talent in this community, and the staff are pretty good. And while I know there's a lot of challenges out there, I'm pretty confident not only will we get through town meeting and get through some of these financial challenges we're facing, but more importantly, I'm looking forward to working with the board to find your next permanent town administrator, which I think the taxpayers and the citizens of the town deserve. So, again, thank you very much. Looking forward to working with you, and as Enzo said, let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay. Next, I would like to, I entertain a motion, minutes, T? You want to change them?
No. I
Okay.
guess, if I may.
Yep.
At the last meeting, we had an unplugged audio system after Verizon came in and found it was unplugged. So I had some business that might have looked good, but nobody could hear it. I made a motion to draft a letter of opposition to the chairman of the Board of Trustees and president of Northeastern. It's an unanimous vote. Couple of problems: we didn't have a town administrator, and our town council, I'm trying to reach him. So I'm going to meet with him to set up, if not with the town administrator, but that's number one in the works. I also would like to have the town administrator look into this. I made a motion that the Board of Selectmen vote to have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit from the cemetery all the way up to Swallow Cave Road. If you people want to take a ride up through there, you'll notice there are no speed limit signs. It was a big deal a couple of years ago when I first came on the board, because people speed in this town. And the chief did a great job. Castle Road and Fox Hill Road have new speed limit signs, and the police are doing their best to stop people who are speeding. But from, like around Nahant Associates, all the way up through Swallows Cave Road, there are no speed limit signs. So I would like to have speed limit signs put up. It passed on a unanimous vote. And then third, I am going to meet with town council to set up a letter to send to the EPA requesting that they do an environmental compliance audit around the waters of Northeastern. 30 years ago, water started being pumped up there. Oh, it's not working? Oh, I did all that talking for nothing? Oh, boy.
They can hear it.
Not as well? Okay. Long and short of it is that I spent a lot of my youth up there at Pea Island and that area, and I just want to know, and obviously the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously, the town would like to know what changes there have been up there at Northeastern since they've been pumping water into the ocean there for over 30 years. And there's no comparisons because nothing's been done up there. So I used to catch beautiful, beautiful black perch up there. There aren't any more perch up there. But anyway, so there are 3 things that we did that the town needed to hear because they couldn't hear. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the minutes of 3/1/18.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. But you have, those are the minutes right there.
Okay.
You can sign them later, all right. Okay, next on the agenda is Citizens Forum. This is the Citizens Forum. This is when anybody can get up and speak. if anybody wishes to. That microphone, and state your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm going to read off the letter. My name is Dave Aldrich. I live at 163 Willow Road. And I'm representing 16 property owners. Dear Selectmen, this is a very preliminary but critical and urgent request from the entire neighborhood area of Willow, Summer, Christopher, and Wharf Street that continues to suffer from the wrath of the rising tide. We believe, by all accounts from the Nahant town officials and the DPW, the Willow and Summer Street intersection has the highest occurrence of consistently flooding area in the town. The winter storm flooding, accompanied by snow, ice, rocks, sand, and floating debris, create an impassable roadway that is dangerous with damaging results. Each occurrence, the 3 storm drains on Willow and Summer Street are blocked, resulting in damage and flooding. As you know, the drain systems are both clapper valves. So at the high tides, the pressure from the ocean does not allow for draining. But as soon as the tide recedes, the drains remain blocked with sand, rocks, and other debris. It is abundantly clear that the tide has risen and will continue to rise. Each occurrence continues to damage our properties and compromise our foundations. The time for action, we feel, is now. The next event is right around the corner. We are requesting that the seawall or water abatement system be raised by 3 to 4 feet along Willow Road and continuing through the Aldrich property, tying in to 8 Summer Street, which is the Massaro property. This elevation would reduce the volume of water over the walls, up the access ramp, which is on the Aldrich's property, and then directly through the 163 Willow Road with dramatic results. And that's the continuation of the water to Cadogan's and so on. The seawater damage during each storm will continue to adversely affect our physical properties, town access, property and real estate values, not to mention the reoccurring expenses to the maintenance from the town. During each storm, we are all repeating, this is the worst case scenario, and Mother Nature continues to prove us wrong and challenge our resolve. The rising tides will worsen. All scientific data confirms that. Lifelong Nahant residents, one sitting here, will confirm that the recent storms have surpassed anything that they've experienced in the last 50 years. But this now occurs several times a year. The current storm, with the prolonged surf and damaging through 7 consecutive high tides flooding our area, has now elevated our concerns. Thankfully, the power remained on during service. We cannot imagine how much additional damage would have occurred if the power had gone off. We would like to reduce the extraordinary emotional and physical stress that we all face during these storms. We can no longer rely on our children, as they have now moved from Nahant and can't assist us. As we all age, we can't imagine how we'll be able to manage this in 10 years from now. And some owners winter in the south, and they are completely helpless from afar. We, especially the Aldriches, know there isn't a foolproof way to prevent 100% of the seawater from breaching the walls. We accept living on the ocean, and the floodplain exposes our properties. But if we can be proactive, avoid a penny-wise, pound-foolish, piecemeal approach, and reduce the volume of water by 75 to 85% and 95% of the debris that accompanies each flood by raising the seawall, we all feel that we've better prepared as humanly possible under the geographic location of our homes. A raised seawall water abatement system with adequate scuppers will be the best prevention possible. We feel a proactive approach and forward-thinking strategy will alleviate long-term costs and maintain the quality of life that we all want in our neighborhood. We feel that the timing is perfect for this action. The declared disaster area will accelerate the process, and the federal and state governments that are in a position for financial assistance. We urge you to submit this additional project as part of any FEMA or any other request that you will be requesting from the governor with his declaration of emergency and also to the government. An official letter signed by all parties is forthcoming, respectfully submitted on behalf of the neighborhood, Dave Aldrich. So I'll give you a copy of this, but I don't think anyone can really argue with what we're dealing with now. You know, our property, we're at a higher elevations than the Cadogan, so we didn't have any water in our basement, but obviously our yard looks pretty bad. Beginning with Linda and Chris and all the way down through the properties, it happens all the time now. And every single time the town comes and it's more maintenance. You know, we have to often open the storm drains because, you know, we just do, because if we don't, it doesn't get done, because the town is very busy during the storms. So we feel that this is kind of a no-brainer, and everyone is behind it, because if we can raise it up 3 to 4 feet, and my wife and I are perfectly fine with, you know, having an additional height and lost view and property, that's perfectly fine with us. But we can't, you know, this is kind of a nightmare. And now it's coming up the ramp, and it goes up the ramp, and then it continues down, and then it goes, you know, it goes, as soon as enough of the surge comes up, and it goes up Summer Street, and it hits Cadogan's house, and it goes down the driveway, then the whole area floods. So we really think that, and we all seriously want you to consider raising the seawall along Willow Road and figuring out a way. You know, we own the ramp that goes down to the beach. You know, if you're standing at the ramp and you look at kind of like the last post, and you look at Massaro's wall, our seawall used to tie in all the way. I mean, John can attest to that from years past. So whether or not you have to move the access point for the beach cleaning, I don't know what to do, but we really do feel that this is a time that you have to raise the wall, because it's just not going to get any better, and it's going to continue to be an incredible burden on the town's expenses. And when this happens, it affects everyone. It affects the town real estate values. It affects people moving here because they come and they see this and they hear about it. So it's really a win-win situation, we feel, and we really strongly hope you'll consider doing something for not only us, but for the town and everyone in the area. So I don't know if you guys have anything you'd like to say, or... All right, but I can tell you, everyone is behind this.
I think the whole town's behind it. We have the same problem down on Fox Hill Road, and, you know, all around town.
But
I know.
We're like ground zero.
And those top layer of the seawall, if you notice, the bottom of the seawall on Tudor Beach really didn't get affected. Right. It's only the top, because that's not really pinned in, and we're going to have to do something about that. We know that. Did you want to speak also?
John Anderson, 152 Willow Road. What Dave had mentioned, and what I feel too, as far as with the destruction that we saw in the cap along Tudor Beach and the rails being down, that is the perfect time as far as now to raise that wall 3 to 4 feet, as Lynn had done on Lynn Shore Drive. I don't think any of the neighbors would be angry. I think it would be a positive result within our neighborhood. I know, I've been at this house now for 11 years, and when the water comes down summer and into the Cadogan's driveway and floods my backyard, especially the Cadogan's and Mike Tannen's, and then into John Michaud's, over these past 11 years, I've seen the waters get higher and higher and higher. There's the drain that's in between my property and the Henry's property, and I know that when the tides are high, and I don't know that much about how the piping goes, but seawater does come up through that drain and then starts flooding the property. But I think, again, as Dave had said, this is the perfect time, since the seawall now has been damaged, is to remove the railings, increase the height of the seawall, and I think we'd all benefit. Thank you.
All right.
May I?
Sure, go ahead.
I was born, brought up that area, Summer Street Court. I can remember that place always flooding, but never like this. Never, as John would say, never. There are certain areas, Castle Road, Fox Hill Road, Ward Road, I would say they are one and you're one, both tied. This is terrible. I think, because I've been thinking about it, I went with Dennis all around town a couple of times, and I really think that we need to get procedures in place as selectmen immediately, because for next storm, we have to, do the best we can immediately to help you people. But I think we should make a priority list with a new DPW, maybe the town administrator, on what really needs to be done in those areas are specifically done first and foremost. Because we have enough coming in that we can do 2 or 3 areas at once. I was watching those waves. My daughter lives there now, and they were scary. And if you went by Richie Lombard's house, that would be number 1, too. So there are certain areas that have to be immediate. Do 3 areas, 4 areas, whatever it is, all at once, because we have to. It's going to get worse.
Well, is there anything that we can do, our group can do to help you?
Well, the town administrator is going to say a few things about a chapter and verse when we get to it. But I think, well, you should be honest to make sure we do it, because I want to push it. I want to make sure that we don't just put everyone in one spot. I want a bunch of spots done, because if you went down a Fox Hill Road, you'd feel the same way as you feel. Oh, understood. But I think it should be a 3-pronged attack. This shouldn't be something that, we'll worry about it next summer or something. So, I'm with you 100% on this. We just... And another part, too, that I went to that should be added is Bass Point Road. Unbelievable. They were hitting so hard that I was like, and this was like the 4th day. So I said, woof. So, but we can do that. If we get enough relief, we have to. There's no other way, we have to. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, thanks for listening to us.
Yeah, we need to, Jerry, take immediate steps with the Public Works. The number 1 is to, the drains there on Summer Street and Willow Road have to be completely cleaned right away before Tuesday's tide.
They're doing it now.
They need to get their machine and just pull the drain. Number 2, they need to set some Jersey barriers down there at the ramp and put like 3 or 4 of them to prevent the tide from coming up any further. And then on Willow Road, the wall, I agree with you 100%. We need we've got the destruction of the upper tier and the fence completely taken down in one area, and some other areas too. We need to raise that a full block. So take that fence down, and what we need to do is raise that barrier at Willow Road, that whole area, and at the Margarine Park as well. You can see that destruction down that area. That has to be refixed, repoured, and raised up.
There is another storm drain that does not work.
And Wharf Street too.
Wharf Street, just like Summer Street.
Right.
Whenever there's a lot of water, just rainwater.
But
The drains are working fine, at the tide. Right. That they're fine now.
well, they haven't been, the sand overfilled them, and we couldn't get to them quick enough, I know that. Because it's the same thing at the corner of Valley and Ocean, in front of, and going down Willow, they were filled to the brim, the actual drains. And the water was coming down, like the 3rd house at Willow Road, right, past me, and it was like just flooding all of Willow Road. But the big thing, these are things we can address and get money to support that, okay? And then down on Fox Hill Road and Castle Road, we need to build a seawall down there too. Okay, the seawall all the way down from the beach by Richie DeBringer's old house to the beginning of the sand dune in front of the old pharmacy or Doggy Beach. So it protects those people from that there. But the big thing that we need to, and I've set an appointment up with Representative Congress, we need to put a barrier from Bailey's Hill over to the wharf. It's like very similar to what the Winthrop barriers they put in. Now, in order to get that done, we got to talk to Seth Moulton and the senators from the Massachusetts. We've got to get input and get them, because from Florida to Maine, they're starting to build these new barriers, and we've got to get our oar in the water to make sure that, because you're talking millions of dollars. And one of the ways, someone suggested to me and wrote to me that all the ships in the country, Navy, civilian ships, all have to have double hulls, including the barges. They need to be double hulled. And what they do and they plan on is sinking, say a barge. The barge is like 3 football fields long, fill it with rocks and just build the layer and the barrier up, tie it down. Okay, they do that. And then you have a barrier out at Tudor Beach, right along the water there. We've got ledge over by halfway things that could tie it in and make it like a protected harbor. Now, that's going to cost billions of dollars to get it done, but they're doing it in Congress, and they're starting to do it now. We need to step up to the plate. That will prevent all the flooding on Willow Road, even with our barriers, okay? It's an idea, and I like the idea, and we got to pursue it with our federal and state, officials, because there's 2 areas that are getting flooded. Willow Road, okay, water come down there. If you take a ride down Willow Road, you'll see it looks like Attitash with the rocks down there. I mean, it's so huge. I've never seen so many rocks in my whole life. Fox Hill, I've never seen so much water. I lived on Fox Hill. And I've never seen so much water in Fox Hill and lower end Fox Hill get flooded. We've got to meet with them down the road here, and we've got to come up with some suggestion to prevent that from happening to those people. Those people were totally flooded. And we can't have that again, so either we gotta, get more pumps so we can put them down there emergency before it starts flooding, so they can flood the water. But we gotta meet with all those people. But these suggestions in there, we gotta meet down with the board. We got a brand-new town administrator here, all right? And he knows the financial. And then, we need help, like you read about. And it has to come, the town of Nahant can't afford all this. We're lucky right now with the budget coming through. We have no money for raises, for instance, for the fire, police, and public works. We have no raises, no money in the budget for raises, and they deserve a raise. The price of milk has gone up in the last 3 years, and right now we've got nothing scheduled for raises. So you can see how tight the budget is. And plus we got a problem up in Northeastern. We got a major problem up there, and that's we're gonna be voting in the law firm tonight to go after these people. We can't allow them to expand their property up there. In 351 cities in town, the smallest town in the Commonwealth, and they're expanding it to add 300, 400, who knows? And that has to stop too. So we got a lot on our plate, but we're going to work through it. We've got the ideas, we've got the expertise, we know, okay, and we'll meet with you. We'll meet with you, because I know when we had the hearing for Northeastern, I have never met so many great people living in the town that I didn't know. And they're very, very smart. And they had some great, wonderful ideas and suggestions. We utilize that. The same with Willow Road and this is the perfect time. We got to repair those walls anyways. It's the perfect time to take it up another layer. And the event goes right around to in front of your property all the way down so that it's all enclaved. And then we'll block off that ramp so nothing gets up it. You know what I mean? So that's the shortcut answer. Long-term, we gotta build the breakwater out there to prevent it long-term, because that's where it's coming. These tides are not coming, you know. You can see, I mean, we used to have 30 yards of sand down at Short Beach. Now, at high tide, it's right to the rocks. We have no beach at all. And Tudor Beach is the same way. So that's, okay, I hear you. We're working toward that. The Board of Selectmen knows it. So we're on top of it. Okay, we're gonna hopefully keep you apprised of the situation.
Great.
Okay?
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay, I have a very good solution to most of this, and it doesn't cost us a dime. Back in 2016, the governor, and I'm very familiar with this stuff because I had the maps changed in Nahant, as you know, our committee did, FEMA committee, and it's still active, and we're working on the community rating system, but he signed the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. And basically, he signed Executive Order 569 instructing state government to provide assistance to cities and towns to complete climate change vulnerability assessments and resiliency planning. The MVP grant program provides support for cities and towns. Massachusetts began the process of planning for resiliency. The state awards communities with funding to complete vulnerability assessments and develop action-oriented resiliency programs and plans. The program helps the communities to, first, define extreme weather and natural and climate-related hazards, identify existing and future vulnerabilities and strengths, develop and prioritize actions for the community, and identify opportunities to take action to reduce risk and build resilience. So this is geared towards this. We'll get grant money for this. So maybe we can get you guys to come to even join that committee to, and we can work towards this, you know, with the governor's office to do this. It's certified, MVP certified providers are trained in workshops across the state to provide technical assistance to communities in corresponding and completing the assessment and resiliency plan using the CRBF, Community Resilience Building Framework. Towns and cities will then be able to choose the provider of their choice from a list of providers. They'll come in, work with us. We look at Tudor Beach, we say we need to raise that wall, all right, 3 or 4 feet. The ramp's got to be fixed. It's going to go around to Alessandro's property, that whole area over there. Fox Hill Road, you know, there's a seawall there that I was working those pumps down there on Fox Hill during the flood and in lowlands. I helped set them up. There's a drain, and I'm sure Jerry's familiar with it, on Castle Road that drains onto Doggy Beach, and we all thought that it was crushed, and it's not. We found the storm drain for it, and we started pumping over the wall through, I think it's Phil.
Down by Ward Road.
Yeah, what's his name's old house?
Bill Baldwin's old
Phil Baldwin's old house, yeah. We set the pumps right over there. And that manhole kept filling up, so it still works. So lo and behold, I went down on Doggy Beach while the storm was going crazy, and there's rocks, there's boulders covering that the pipe. That's all that's wrong with it. And it's still connected, but it's just blocked up. And I'm sure you're having the same problem. We have Stevie Grenice has won the contract to do the cleanup. He's already got guys out there now, and I've been down checking them. They're doing all the catch basins now because they're full of sand. They're doing the revetment on the north side because Marginal Road's falling down. Parrot Road, Fallon Way, they're all falling down. Tudor Beach, that's going to be a little more complicated. So we'll get to that. We're going to get to that. But this program here, we need to implement this program and get grant money for this. They'll come in and they'll look at it, they'll assess it, they'll help us with it. And actually, a friend of mine from DCR sent this to me today, Tony Barletta. He sends me a lot of good stuff from, he works at DCR, so we're gonna work on that too, all right? And maybe you guys can, I'll get a hold of you somehow?
Sure. I mean, everyone's...
Help us with it? Yeah. I mean, it's a great program, so, and it's money. It's money for us to look at that and try to remedy it, you know? All right?
Great.
All right. Okay.
We need to sign someone in the town hall just for this project, just for this.
Yeah.
One of the secretaries in the office, in the selectman's office, just to work on this recommendation being typed up.
Okay.
Okay?
Let me look at, I'll look at it, yeah.
And get it, and then ask not only the people here from Willow Road, but from Fox Hill Road, Ward Road.
Right.
See, when living down Fox Hill, the pipe that goes in back of, next to Ward Road is the ditch. You know that well. The problem, the ditch, it drained two ways. It was like this. It would drain toward Kelly Greens, and the other thing was it broke just be where the new pump station is, the major pump station. It was draining out to Doggy Beach. Problem with Doggy Beach, the sand dunes raised up.
Raised.
No, it's there, Richie. It's covered with rocks.
No, I know, it's, you're pumping you're pumping that drain next to Phil Baldwin's house.
It's beyond it. I saw it.
Okay,
All they have to do is take the rocks away from it.
well, I'm just gonna tell you, that sand dune down there just buried it. It's 5 feet, 6 feet high, so nothing is flowing back to it. So we have to redig that ditch,
Yeah, Joe,
okay, with a grate all. You're
yeah.
putting a grate all.
Joe Ward built that in the 60s, and I think you're right, Richie. It's getting
The sand dunes is
raising.
high.
It's across from the old drugstore, as I
But
recall.
we still need to build a seawall along that backside those houses are. Okay, because the water is coming through that way, and we gotta continue raising the sand dunes on Shot Beach because the water came that way as well.
Right. Well, there is a dune project in place for...
Shot Beach.
No, for Castle Road,
No, I understand, but
along that and if you
the dune is gonna, you need to build an actual seawall behind those, to
No, I know.
prevent those people from
But they
there.
have a dune project that they're supposed to be authorizing. Also, if you notice that when you're leaving Nahant on the Doggy Beach side, that dune is so high now,
Right.
it really saved Nahant Road.
No, I understand, that's fine, but the problem behind Castle Road, you've got all these homes, private homes, and the money for those individuals to build a seawall it's gonna cost $150,000, $200,000. It's a lot of money. And those people down there, I would think, because I know at 78 on Willow Road, those walls all collapsed. And the granite was going through the back windows of the decks and coming through the front way. I saw it, I mean, I knew, So, it's great because those people that have the seawalls on the private side of the Willow Road Beach and to the beach, they're gonna have to raise them, but in order to do that, that's a project. That's gonna be, you know what I mean? You gotta, that's engineering at such, because the existing seawalls, the ones, most of them took a pretty good hit. But they didn't crack, and then there's no disturbance there, but... One did. Oh, one did, yes. But, we need to raise those two. They're gonna have to get authorization, blanket authorization to raise those seawalls. And that's gonna have to be a blanket one for all that, same with when we need, go in front of the, appointing authorities to do that, and not have such a high fence. The fence along, Longshore Drive, it's about that high, but it's a big, thick 18-inch wall, and it really does the trick. And those, if you look at them, they come in like this. They're kind of like a U shape, and they stop and prevent the tide coming over. Yeah. Okay, that's what we need to do.
So,
Do you need us for anything else, or?
What's most important is that we stay on this, that we put together, under the town administrator, we put together a group that that decides the most important parts in town that need to be done together at the same time, however you want to say it, of which yours will definitely be one. You know what I mean? There'll be a lot of ones. That has to be done immediately, and then we can plan for the future. But this is something that's immediate, in my opinion.
We need to get the names and the names of the houses that are affected this time. No, right.
And I know that there are bigger areas that you have to take care of, but I also want to reiterate that we have been dealing with this problem
Right.
And it's getting worse. And you're getting much...
It's getting worse all around town, though. Anybody in the velocity zone is, when you're in a velocity zone, or below the velocity zone, you're gonna, it's what's happening. And right now, we have the 40 steps revetment we're dealing with. That's a FEMA funded project that DEP is denying us the hard order of conditions for, and we're working on that. This program here, I'm going to be looking for people for this. This is a really, really good program. This is going to, you'll have your input, all right, on this. The people will have their input. We'll get grant money to put a plan together, and then we look for funding. We'll look.
If you could develop a list of all the people involved down there.
And I know some people down.
The names, the addresses, if you could, the 14 residents, that would be good, helpful, give it to the town manager. And so that, this, like, same with Willow Road, we're gonna start farming that up too.
Don't worry, everyone is very anxious. Everyone's very anxious about this.
Well, we're gonna keep going on this, it's probably gonna be on the agenda every 2 weeks. So we know exactly, and give you upgrades, say, okay, this is what happened from the federal government, the state government. We're gonna solicit and go ask for the funds, okay, as soon as a state of emergency, and then, Mr. Perry, who's the new town administrator, is very good at financial stuff, so he knows all about that. And hopefully, and then we gotta go to Washington and get that breakwater. We might have to put a breakwater, the town, we need, just like Winthrop did. Winthrop, if you look on Winthrop, those breakwaters stop, okay, the tide surge.
Okay.
Also, guys, no offense, but people cannot hear you out in town unless you speak up at the mic, just...
Right.
So they don't know what we're even answering to, but it's all about they care.
Yeah, you gotta get up and talk, because they wanna, the cameras, we got cameras both ways, and
But
they
they
wanna
would-
hear and see,
We know.
Last year, they couldn't hear us, and the phone was ringing off the hook.
They were unplugged, so.
Well, we're the most important people in the world, so,
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you.
yep, thank
I'm
you.
going to be calling you guys tomorrow
Okay,
for this.
thanks
thank
for
you
coming
very
up.
much.
Thank you.
One last thing as far, please reach out. I'll give you my name and number, or email you, so you have all my contact information, so we can get moving on this.
Okay, sure.
That's great.
Yeah, that's
Really
great. I mean,
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
listen,
Yeah,
The more the merrier. And like I told you, I'm working on the community rating system, and I've kind of fallen behind because we have with the committee, it's a ton of work. And this, if I can integrate more people into that, it's going to help your flood insurance rates go down too. So, this is all helpful. It's about time that the governor did something like this. So,
Oh, we appreciate it. Thank you.
all right.
thanks for coming up.
Thanks. Okay. The interim town administrator report. Jerry, you want to speak on the emergency spending?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have before you, actually, the letter, there is a letter right here, I'm sorry. Let me explain a little bit how Chapter 44, Section 31 works. It's an accounting emergency. It's not so much the fact there was an emergency, that's a little bit different here. But what occurs here is the town in emergency situations by law can incur liabilities, which is fine. You don't have to wait to get to town meeting or anything like that. You just go clean up, you do bidding, which we did with Grenice and things of that nature. That's all fine. Under Chapter 44, Section 31, you need to vote of the board tonight to approve that, requesting that the Director of Accounts, which is my old job, allows the town to pay the bills. So you can incur a liability in an emergency situation, but you have no statutory authority to pay the bills. By voting this tonight, the town can pay those bills to Grenice or whoever, wherever when the bills come in. And then what happens, what we're going to have to do is we kind of start adding up all the bills and see how much the liability is. You don't have money in place for this right now. And what we can do, and we'll go out to the bond market before June 30th, is we will determine how much the liability is. We will go out and borrow for these funds. And we can borrow from anywhere from it used to be 2 years, they just recently changed it up to 10 years now, that the town could vote to borrow for these things. And then what happens, it's called bond anticipation notes. It's kind of like temporary notes. And what happens is we wait to reconcile with FEMA, MEMA, insurance, et cetera. And then when we pay off the liabilities from any reimbursements the town may receive, after we find out what our liabilities are, then we have whatever's money left over. Then we have to make a determination how we're going to pay those bills. And it could be as much as a year or two out the road. By doing this, it takes the liability off the setting of the tax rate, so we can get your tax rate set this summer or early fall. And it's, quite frankly, the proposed way that most communities in the Commonwealth handle when these storms and hurricanes and tornadoes and fires and things of that nature. So this is standard practice. This is how we will handle it. But it will probably take a year and a half to 2 years before we finalize, all of this and make a determination down the road how to pay the residual funds left over from any reimbursements. So I would recommend to the board, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions, but I would recommend that the board unanimously pass this, and I will get the letter to the Revenue Department first thing tomorrow morning.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve, under the guidelines of Chapter 44, Section 31 of MGL, the deficient expenditure liability in excess of appropriation of an amount yet to be determined for removal of storm-related debris, emergency repairs, and other needs of the community related to this storm.
Second.
Okay, discussion, any discussion?
No, I like it.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of Selectmen vote to declare an emergency situation due to the March 2nd, 2018 storm and resulting damage. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I can do this one, Jerry, if you want. Okay, the field day?
Which one's that?
It's on the agenda. Okay, we're going to approve a field day, Johnson School PTO 6/12/18 from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is when the kids, the sixth grade, I think, have their field day down there. The graduating class.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, old business. FY 2019 budget review continued. I've talked with, go ahead, you want to talk?
Oh, no, when you're done, I would like to,
You want to talk about it, sir? Go ahead.
the budget in general, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
You okay with that? Okay.
Yeah, fine, absolutely.
As Enzo knows, and I think T a little bit too, I have tried, since we started this marriage, to try to take a look at the budget. I spent some time last week with Debbie Waters, going over the budget a little bit. I plan on meeting with her again tomorrow morning. I had the privilege of sitting with Brendan Ward over the weekend and discussing the budget with the chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee. And I have, on my own, spent some considerable amount of time looking at not the weeds of the budget, but the bigger picture. And I think it's important that I begin this dialogue with you. I appreciate Richie's comments about the fact he thinks I'm some sort of a knowledgeable guy on municipal finance. I like to think I know a little bit about it, but I have to say this to the board, and it's kind of to the town as a whole. It's my opinion that we will probably balance this budget this year at town meeting. I think we can do it. However, it's going to require a large infusion of free cash to balance the budget, okay? And it could be $700,000 to $800,000. The last word I got was $717, but we still got to deal with the recent snowstorm and and anything else. There's some hope that we can take some funds, unexpended funds that may be left over in some of the accounts and do the transfer shuffle that most communities do. But on a larger scale, and and Richie and I talked a little bit about this, is the long-term effects of the budget and how the future looks for the town of Nahant. And I'm not going to be here for this, but I think the time has come to have a pretty tough conversation. Quite frankly, it's my professional opinion that, kind of a structural deficit, if you will. I wouldn't call it a deficit per se, but we're out of whack probably $500,000. Not that you're out of whack per se, but traditionally, the utilization of free cash is not really supposed to be used for day-to-day operations. It's supposed to be used for one-time expenditures. Northeastern attorneys, storm damage, capital infrastructure costs, things of that nature. That's the right approach to use free cash, which the strong communities do that. The rating agencies look at that pretty strongly, and unfortunately, I know over the last several years, and even before I retired, I had long conversations with prior town administrators, even conversations going back to Mark Cullinan about the utilization of free cash, which I know you've all talked about in the past. But there are other communities, from my professional experience, that got themselves into trouble going forward. There is no other solution this year. It's not like, I have some, great ideas to get you there. But what I'm worried about is either next year or 2 years down the road, because you are running the risk of getting in the trouble to the point you're not going to have balanced budgets, and you may not be able to set your tax rate, which happened, I think Richie can attest to this a little bit back, even before Mark was here, way back in the day there. Having said that, it is my opinion upon looking upon this, I don't believe you have an expenditure problem. I've looked at that, and I even thought back to when I was here 35, 40 years ago when I was working here. You've got the same size fire department, you got one more cop, you got a few more people in the town hall, you even have less people down in the public works. You've done a great job as a community when you talk regionalization, the way you've interacted with the town of Swampscott and the educational costs here in terms of contracting out with them, because normally school systems incorporate about 50% of any budget. I do not believe you have an expenditure problem. I think the town leadership, going back many years, has done a great job, and people think you're spending too much money here, there. That's not really the case here, not on the operations. I believe the problem is on the revenue side. I looked at your average single-family tax bill. In 2009, you ranked, I think, 60, bear with me here. In 2009, the average single-family tax bill was $5,215, and you ranked 63rd in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and almost all those communities are inside the 495 belt. However, in FY17, the most recent year, your average single-family tax bill was $62.93, and you rose to 81st. So what's happened is the town, I'm not advocating you raise taxes or anything like that, but people, I think, get the misimpression that we're spending too much money. I do not believe that's the case here in Nahant. It's just that you have a relatively low tax base. There are challenges that come along with things like pension costs, healthcare costs beyond your control. These are beyond the controls of this Board of Selectmen or me or anybody else. You got collective bargaining issues, you got OPEB-related costs, there's a whole bunch of things there. I think the town should be commended for what it's done on the expenditure side. But I think the time has come, and I did have a conversation with the chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee, who does agree with me on this a little bit too, the fact that I think going forward over the next year or so after we get through town meeting, we need to have a conversation, because I am concerned about next year or maybe 2 years out. You've seen other communities pretty close by go through a very similar exercise where they use their free cash and got in a lot of trouble. And I'm worried about how this could impact this community going forward. So having said that, I just think it's important, being pretty brand new here to you guys, that be said right up front. But I do believe we can get you a balanced budget through town meeting this year. It's the future we have to be worried about.
Thank you.
I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have about it.
Thanks, Jerry. I agree, it is a revenue issue. I do agree with you with that, and we do have to do something about that. We have free cash. I mean, every selectman seminar I've gone to, I've actually talked to the guy that took your place, and we just keep spending and spending and spending. We actually had an extra $400,000 in free cash this year due to tax title stuff. And, you know, if we didn't have it, we'd be in trouble. We'd be in real trouble. And it just seems like that we get lucky every time we run into these problems, we get lucky. And our luck's gonna run out. I don't disagree with that. You know, we have to just, the whole free cash issue is becoming a real problem. We should be putting money away, but we should be using it, like you said, for one-time expenses.
And I'm glad, I don't mean to interrupt, Mr. Chairman, but no, I mean, we have about $90,000 of stabilization, you have $30,000 in OPEB. I mean, your goal, I know you just can't get there yet, you're not ready for it. The goal in stabilization is 10% of your general fund. You're at 8.6 million, so you really want about 800,000 in stabilization. You're not even close to it. The OPEB trust fund is falling behind too, and this is future. I was listening to Richie talk about those seawalls, and I apologize. The first thing in my head is how are we going to pay for all this stuff, you know, and I get nervous. But
No.
But and it's a legitimate, I mean, need. There's no question to that. But the fiduciary position of the town is precarious right now. And even, you know, dealing with collective bargaining and things of that nature, it's important that the taxpayers of this town know it's just not I don't believe it's an expenditure. You're kind of providing the same services you did 40 years ago.
Right.
You really are. And that's a testament to keeping your thumb on that side of the coin. It's the revenues. Right. That's where the problem lies.
And we have to be careful with that, you know.
Totally
we don't
agree.
want,
A tough conversation.
I don't want another Swampscott, and I like Swamp.
I agree.
They have
They're too high.
Yeah, way too high.
Trust me.
And we are going to have some issues coming up. So we have water and sewer coming up. We have, and people really have to. I know everybody's focus is on Northeastern, but they really need to. And I'll email them that whole plan if they ask. I'm more than happy to do that, make it available. But they really need to start thinking about that because town meeting is a month away, and that's gonna be on the plate. That whole water and sewer issue. The just again, we need to look at everything, you know, financially in the town.
I am concerned as your brand new
Right.
interim town administrator. I'm just concerned, and I can't tell you in my prior life how many communities I had to go in and do some really nasty things because there wasn't enough money. I think even Mr. Taylor knows a little bit about this from his professional career too, and we don't want that to happen here. And it's going to be some really tough stuff going forward. It's something I think needs to be said right out of the blocks my first night, and I apologize to everyone for having to talk about this, but I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't bring this to the table tonight.
Right. And, you know, the debt service, we're paying, I think we've collected probably close to $1 million in rent at the Coast Guard housing, and we've paid $200,000 off on the debt. And that, to me, is shameful. And we're balancing the budget with that, with the Coast Guard housing. We're paying interest only. We're still struggling with that whole thing. And as a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I want to make I would entertain a motion that Wayne Wilson would like to be a part of that committee. So I would entertain a motion that we appoint Wayne Wilson tonight because they are having trouble getting quorums.
Coast Guard housing?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I'll so move.
Do I have a second?
How many people are you missing?
Well, we're not missing anybody, but they need to, Wayne has some good insight. He's a building inspector, so he can tell them, he can guide them too, you know, and for some reason, we should have probably put him on there a long time ago, so. Do I have a second?
Yeah, thanks. Second.
Okay, all right. All those in favor? Aye. Aye, so Wayne's on that committee. I'm gonna let him know tomorrow, so he can start going to those meetings. But again, that's another issue, that, you know, we just keep spending money that we're depending on that. We're depending on the golf course to pay our bills. We're depending on all these things to pay our bills, and it's just, we shouldn't be doing that.
They call it kicking the can down the road, and that's
Right.
what's going on right now in this community. Not that it's anyone's fault, but the laws of Proposition 2.5 are really handcuffing the three of you and the town as a whole in terms of how to, raise the revenue, because there's only so much you can raise.
Right.
And it's limited, and you could literally eliminate an entire public safety department and probably just break even. That's how bad it is going forward. It's a structural problem, and it's gonna rear its ugly head in the next few years if we don't talk or do something about it.
Thank you for that.
All right, Jerry, thank you. Okay, next is the Capital Plan Community Preservation Committee.
Just review it.
Just a review, it's the exterior building envelope maintenance. Town Hall is getting for $50,000, library $25,000, the chapel $25,000. The AD access at the Town Hall is $50,000, because they gotta fix the ramp out there and put the, probably an elevator up here or something, somewhere. The gangway replacement at for the harbor master, and the Nahant Preservation Trust Valley Road School walkway replacement is $20,000, and the Nahant Historical Society archival catalog and training, $8,500. Okay. The warrant is next.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to set the warrant for FY19 annual town meeting.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
No.
We might have a couple more to go on there, so we may be opening it up again. Article 34 has been taken off, the marijuana consumption article has been removed. I had Mike Feinberg, the Chief Feinberg, send the Article 38 and 39, the sprinkler systems to Jerry. I had him send that to Jerry, and I had him also send it to the Finance Committee, because they're the ones that actually get up and read it and have to recommend it. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so the motion carries. We may be opening this back up
Sure.
next week, all right?
May I say something?
Sure.
The fact that we have different areas of the town that really need to be looked at, and the people came up for Tudor Beach, and I've had plenty of conversations with the Fox Hill, Castle, Ward Road people. Each area is very, very important. I think that all of the checklist and whatever's done should be run through the town administrator, through his office. My thought was that he get together with the directors, police, fire, public works, and a Dennis Ball type person.
Yeah.
And get a list of things that need to be done, and then he spearheads it as town administrator. I believe that's really important. Then we don't have everybody running different
No,
places.
I understand that too, but he's new. I mean, Jerry's just in here, and
But he's also good.
I understand that, but we've worked.
How's that,
you know,
Perry?
I've worked with these people, with FEMA, I've worked with,
Oh, understood, but it
So
still
that's-
runs through the town administrator.
absolutely. I mean, he'll get all the information, but I still want to, you know,
Oh, absolutely.
this has to work this way, and, you know, I'm not gonna overburden him right now. He needs to get us through town meeting first, so, and this stuff has come up. I'm very well versed in it, that's what I do. I mean, and I can always give it to him, you know, pass it off to him.
Well, I want the town administrator in the loop.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
He's supposed to be. That's his job.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, yes.
do we have we set up an informational hearing on FEMA yet for the citizens of the town to come up here with their, you know, fill out the forms so they can apply for low-interest loans to fix their property? Not
yet. They're coming in Monday at around 1, I believe, MEMA and FEMA, and I'll speak with them. I'm gonna go around with Dennis.
Are they gonna do it Monday?
Monday during the day, yeah, so I'll go
No, but
around.
they need to bring in people to assist them. And, you know, tables and chairs for people can sit down and help fill out the forms.
No, we haven't reached that point yet.
We haven't done that yet.
I don't think that's coming. I agree with you, but I think it's a little premature, Rich. I think that
Takes
the
time.
FEMA and MEMA are not ready for that, but they will be eventually, I think. And
Believe me,
I'll look into that.
They're still in Florida.
Yeah, they're still assessing costs. They're not, you're right, but we're not there yet. Little early in the
You
game.
know, the adjusters, this is public adjusters are up from Florida, and then they went to New Orleans, and now they're here
Okay.
in Nahant.
Yeah. They'll get to it. I mean, FEMA they work slow.
I think we need to do is get a timetable maybe, and just to let everyone know out there that it's not set up yet, but it's coming. And
Oh, yeah.
hopefully we'll keep you
Yeah.
apprised of it.
Yeah.
So that there's an informational, there's people a little, they're asking the questions, and
Yeah.
I don't know the answers, so.
I can help you a little bit with that. I did a lot of work with MEMA over in the western part of the state, quite frankly, with ice storms and things. We're talking a 3 to 5 month lag by the time they catch up to do just what you're looking to do. So the storm occurred, a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, and so you're probably talking summertime maybe at the earliest, where, it's just their timetable, the way they do things.
See, the problem is, we have 1,300 homes in the town.
Right.
And mostly, there's probably 20% that were affected by this storm.
Is that what you asked? I don't even know that myself. Is that what you think? Okay.
Might be more, few plus amount of.
Yep.
But these people are kind of, they lost
Yep.
a lot of things, the walls, and see, they're losing their rocks, the giant rocks that they
Yeah.
paid thousands of dollars last 68, 78, the major storms
Right.
against their property, and now they're washed out to sea. Now they gotta replace those, and it's gonna cost,
Right.
they gotta get permission from the Concom?
Conservation Commission,
They
yes.
gotta get
Yep.
permits, but, these things all have to be,
It's going to take some time, yeah.
Well,
just,
they have till April 2nd. They can file an emergency notice, and they really don't have to get approval. They just have to let the Concom know what they're doing up
but
until
see-
April 2nd.
okay, my question is, where do they get the form?
Right online, right
online?
right online, or they can get a hold of the Concom and just send that to them. As far as FEMA, I'm in touch with FEMA quite a bit, so I will call Chris Marcus, my friend at FEMA, and ask him when he thinks they'll be out here. All
We
right?
can have people come
I'll
up here
have
so
them
they
get,
fill out the form.
huh? They're very, do you know anybody in the FEMA office?
FEMA, no. MEMA, yes.
Yeah, MEMA, well, that's state, but FEMA is like,
Don't have. I did a lot of work with MEMA.
yeah.
So maybe, you and I are going to get together tomorrow on
Yeah,
a few
we can work
issues.
together. We'll work
So we'll collaborate. Let me. There's no question, Richie. We got to do that for the town. So it's going to be
There's a
done.
lot of-
There's a lot going on right
Everybody's
now.
very anxious because,
Yeah.
should I have it repaired now, save the bills, and then apply?
Right.
You know what I mean? These are the questions I think
Right.
need to be answered.
And I'm sure that
Maybe we can put up a website where they can ask the questions and we can get back to them. Somebody get back to them.
The most important thing they can do is take pictures.
Oh, no, I
They
understand.
have to have proof.
contact their personal insurance for openers, anyways. Yeah.
Take
Right.
pictures.
Right.
I mean, seawalls are not covered under flood insurance.
Right.
Flood insurance basically covers almost collapse of building, pretty much. Some
Yeah, but
contents.
the max on the flood insurance is $250,000.
Right.
But
So-
no one, even the ones in New Jersey that lost the complete house, they never got paid anywhere near $250,000.
Some of them didn't even get paid.
And they're still waiting for it, so it's like,
And the thing, I'd only add, I was here for the blizzard of '78, and, the federal government was pretty generous. We had fire truck, we got all kinds of things.
oh, no, we
Those
we
general-
got- yeah, the state came through with us,
There was a lot of money back then, but.
Jimmy Hoska helped.
Oh,
us.
yeah, I remember all of that.
Yeah, no, Jimmy Hoska
However,
was-
what I wanted to say,
I was on the FinCom when they were.
Right,
going through all
right.
that. Yeah.
but it's a lot tighter today. Money is not as plentiful today
Oh, of course not.
as it was back 40 years ago. So I don't want people to think we're going to get all the, it's.
Oh, no,
it's-
no, no,
The
no.
challenge is tremendous compared to what it was years
We
ago.
have to reconfigure our numbers.
Right.
And reconfigure
It's going to
the
be
budget.
tough.
And reconfigure, there could be the question of regionalization down the road here.
Well, that's
That's a big thing, big word, but, we can't afford where we're going.
No, you can't. Well, let me put it this way. You can't under the existing revenue
Revenue
structure. But again, you talk regionalization, you got to take a bow, you guys. I mean this sincerely.
We gotta-
With the school, the way you handle the school issues here and the school costs You've done a great job on the financial side. You really have, and I'm saying that publicly here. We could do other things too,
Great
but,
administrator down there now.
yeah, I heard that. I will make it a point to reach out to him, but the regionalization stuff, Richie, you've been here the longest, so, you know, you guys have done a good job in coordinating with Swampscott and everything,
We've
but,
worked with less, you know, that
Right.
Public Works used to have 12 to 13, 14 people.
right.
And now we're down to 5, I believe.
Right.
Now, they filled in over the storms with some,
I'm amazed that you're running this town with the public works staff you do, and I haven't met them all yet. I mean, they gotta be great people.
these guys worked
They
around
gotta
the clock.
be working their tails off here, because when I was around, it was like 3 times the size of the
Can't tell you how
people there.
tired they were.
Oh, I can imagine.
I
I
mean,
can
they were
imagine.
exhausted.
And I'll be
thank God-
reaching out to them.
Thank God for people like Michael Callahan feeding them and feeding the people.
Oh, okay, down the tides.
And the pizza store.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, they ate in their trucks. That's, you know.
I think the town's very fortunate with what you're getting for the services from
Oh,
the
I know.
people.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just coming back here after a long time.
And the fire department and the police department, they work
Absolutely.
around the clock.
Okay.
Okay, closing announcements. Charles Kelly Scholarship is due 4/6/18. See this website or come to the town hall for information on it. It's a $1,000 annual Charles Kelly Scholarship, and it's, the instructions will be up here or on the website, what they have to do to acquire it. And then they have the Nahant Veterans Association Scholarship on the 4/13/18 is due. That's another scholarship that's available. And I believe there's
American Legion? Is that the American Legion one?
yep.
$500 annual American Legion
Yep.
scholarship.
Yeah, the Nahant Veterans Association, NBA. So, and then also, tomorrow night is, Saturday night is the St. Patrick's Day. They can buy tickets to, down, at the
Yes.
Coast Guard Station? Okay. Yeah, we cleared that whole area, so it looks
Yeah,
pretty
that was-
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
good.
I had, the DPW went down there
Whatever
today.
it is, somebody.
Oh, that's it. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
we're adjourned. Pedro, we're done.
Thank you, Pedro.